Circumference and the Isle of Imiter, a math adventure by Cindy Neuschwander, illustrated by Wayne Gehan. Young Purr sat with her uncle and aunt, Circumference and Lady Di of Amiter. Her cousin Radius was teaching her the game of inners and edges. A player makes a shape out of tiles, calling out the number of squares used, explained Radius. The first person to correctly count all the outside edges keeps those pieces. Circumference arranged his tiles into a square. Inners are 9, he said. 12 edges, counted Purr, gathering up her winnings. Lady Di made one long row of tiles. Inners again are 9, she said. And edges are 20, exclaimed Purr. I love this game. It belonged to Countess Ariana, said Circumference. She used to live on the Isle of Imiter, just off the coast. A sea serpent is said to guard the palace now, so no one goes there, dares to go there. That evening, Purr played the game by herself. She made several shapes with the tiles, thinking about the edges. With squares, I can count just one side and multiply by 4. For rectangles, I can add one long side and one short side together, then double it. Purr put the pieces away, noticing a picture of Imiter's castle and tiny words painted inside the box. The secret of Imiter is the name of the game. Open where inside and edges are the same. That night, she dreamed about the little island and the mysterious message. Purr woke up early the next morning, determined to visit the castle and discover its secret. She tiptoed into the kitchen. Radius was already there. You're up early, he remarked. I'm going to sail out and explore the island, Purr answered. Would you like to come? Why not, said Radius, stuffing an orange into his pocket. That sea serpent is probably just a myth. Radius and Purr hurried down to the dock. They boarded a small sailboat and headed for Imiter. We'll be there in no time with this breeze, said Radius. When they reached the island, they walked around the castle. They counted 7 walled-in doorways. These doorways remind me of a giant inners and edges game, said Purr. This one has 14 edges. Radius nodded and said, and 12 inners. Well, that was fast, said Purr. I multiplied the 4 stones down the side by the 3 stones across the top, answered Radius. It's quicker than counting each one. At the 5th doorway, Radius said, Inners are 16. Edges are also 16, said Purr. The inside and the outside are the same number, remarked Radius. The inners and edges box said, Open where inside and edges are the same, exclaimed Purr. Could this be the entrance? She tapped on a stone, and the door rumbled open. The 2 cousins stepped inside just as large waves began crashing against the castle walls. Purr and Radius found themselves in the hall with a grand stairway. They noticed a large A in the middle of the floor. That A must stand for Ariana, said Purr. And look, there's a rhyme around the letter. Count half as many inside as out. This unlocks the towers without a doubt. Come what? Radius asked, gazing around the empty hall. How about these key shapes? Answered Purr, looking at the floor. Keys unlock towers. Suddenly, a window high above them shattered. In snaked the head of a sea serpent. Its eyes glowed green gold, and its scales shimmered like jewels. Quick, let's start counting, Purr cried out as the creature howled at them. Then Purr found one with 24 outside edges. There are 12 squares inside. That equals half the edges, cheered Radius. This is the one. But one of the tiles was loose. Radius lifted it up and saw a key. He grabbed it and they ran to the nearest tower. They unlocked the door, ran inside, and slammed it shut. We're safe for now, gasped Purr. Radius looked at the ribbon tied to the string. There are words on this, he said. Where 200 floor squares fit inside, Imiter's secret does reside. How can square tiles fit on the floor of a round room? Wondered Purr. Radius shrugged. Right now, I'm too hungry to think. He pulled the orange out of his pocket and he cut the fruit and gave part to Purr. This slice is round like the tower floor, she said. She cut the piece into 2 halves. Then she stretched the halves out and fit them together. There! Now this circle has been reshaped into a rectangle. A lumpy, bumpy rectangle, observed Radius. So Purr cut the 8 orange segments equally into 16 smaller ones. Then she rearranged a smoother rectangle. Much better, she said, and we already know how to figure out the inside of this shape. Right, said Radius. It's just like the castle doorways. You multiply one long side by one short side. Halfway around the orange slice is the same as the long side, observed Purr. And the length of an orange segment is about the same as the short side. So we just multiply the 2 measurements to get the inners of the circle. Long side of the rectangle equals half the circumference. Short side of the rectangle equals the radius. Purr looked around the room. Imagine that the floor is a giant orange slice that I've cut and stretched out. Halfway around is the same as the long side of the rectangle, so I need to measure the distance around half the tower. Purr's boot was the same length as a square stone tile. She counted off 22 steps around the top half of the room. I also have to measure the distance from the edge of the room to its center, said Purr. That will be like the short side of the rectangle. She stepped off 7 squares. Radius multiplied the 2 measurements. 22 times 7 equals 154, he said. That's not enough, replied Purr. We need to find a room with 200 floor squares. Let's keep looking. What about the sea serpent? Asked Radius. They cautionally opened the door. Everything was quiet. Let's go, said Purr. Together they scrambled up a ladder and ran across a high walkway. Down below, the sea serpent erupted out of the water. Reaching up to grab them, it crashed into the stones. The walkway collapsed and the sea, just as Radius and Purr, the walkway collapsed into the sea just as Radius and Purr entered a second tower. That was a close call, said Purr, catching her breath. They climbed up a spiral staircase. At the top, Purr and Radius found themselves in a bell tower. I don't think the sea serpent can reach us here, said Purr. Let's hope not, answered Radius, peering over the edge. Immediately, Purr counted off 25 boot lengths around half the outside edge of the room. She then counted another 8 steps from the edge to the floor center. 25 times 8 equals 200 squares, she said. This is the place. Now what do we do? Look, said Radius, pointing to the words on the ceiling. The squares in the circle are the secret's key. Use the number to signal the sea. This bell could be the signal, said Purr, pulling on the rope. Radius covered his ears and counted as Purr rang it 200 times. After the last peal, the ocean began churning and foaming. The monster rose up from the depths and faced Purr. She stood before it, trying not to tremble. The creature's jaws opened and Purr could see the rows of gleaming teeth. Out of its mouth dropped a jeweled locket. Purr caught it. Inside was a note. The Isle of Imiters is yours to keep. The palimpsest will protect you awake or asleep. The note was signed by Countess Ariana. Are you the palimpsest? Purr asked the creature. The sea serpent snorted and bowed before her. Radius and Purr returned to the mainland, riding on the palimpsest. Circumference and Lady Di spotted them from the castle and rushed down to greet them. Mercy upon us, they exclaimed. You're riding on a sea serpent. We've had an amazing adventure, said Purr. Tell us all about it, said her uncle and aunt. We unlocked the secret of the castle, said Radius. Purr is now the rightful owner of the Isle of Imiter. We had to find a round tower room that contained exactly 200 floor squares, added Purr. We discovered that if you multiply the distance halfway around the circle by the distance from its edge to the center, you'll know how many squares can fit inside it. Circumference smiled. So 1/2 of the circumference times the radius equals the inside of a circle. Wonderful! The next day, Circumference and Lady Di held a special celebration for Purr. People from miles around should attend. On behalf of the Countess Ariana, I pronounce you Lady Purr of Imiter, said Circumference. This adventure has taken you full circle. Purr curtsied. Thank you, she said. I'm really good now at counting edges. Circumference laughed. So you are. For this reason, the outside edge of any flat, straight-sided shape shall be called the perimeter after you. What shall we call the inside of these pages.